3 weeks after the arena fight, Hyunwoo was back to his normal routine. He pushed his cleaning cart through the corridors of Sector 7, mopping floors and emptying waste containers. The work was the same, but everything else had changed. Aliens nodded respectfully when they saw him. Some even said hello. The Grisellian traders who ran the station market gave him discounts on food. The Kalarian engineers asked for his opinion on maintenance schedules. Word of the human janitor who had defeated a Vorthak commander had spread throughout the station. Still hard to believe, Sojin said as she joined him for their morning break. 3 weeks ago, most aliens thought we were barely smarter than animals. Some still do, Hyunwoo replied. He was cleaning a scuff mark from the corridor wall, but not as many. Did you hear about the new work schedules? Hyunwoo shook his head. Commander Yultar announced them yesterday. Humans get the same rest. Periods as other species now. Same safety equipment too. That was good news. Before the fight, humans had been given inferior equipment and longer shifts than other workers. What about the pay rates? Hyunwoo asked. Still working on that. But Yultar said he is reviewing all station policies that treat different species differently. They walked toward the mess hall for lunch. As they entered, Hyunwoo noticed that the seating had changed. Before, humans had always sat together, at tables in the back. Now they were scattered throughout the hall, sitting with aliens from other species. Dong-hyun waved them over to a table where he was eating with 2 Vorthak engineers. Hyunwoo, Sojin, come meet my new friends, he called. Out. The Vorthak stood up politely as they approached. This was something that never would have happened before the fight. This is Kelnox and Tharvan, Dong-hyun said. They work in power distribution. We have heard much about you, Kelnox said to Hyunwoo. Your victory over Commander Theklar has become famous throughout Vorthak space. It was not about victory, Hyunwoo said. It was about survival. Yes, Tharvan agreed. This is what we are learning about humans. You fight differently than we expected. They sat down to eat together. The conversation was awkward at first, but gradually became more natural. The Vorthak were curious about human culture and history. They asked about Earth, about human wars, about why humans had spread so quickly through the galaxy despite being physically weaker than most species. We adapt, Sojin explained. When we cannot win with strength, we find other ways. Like using the arena lights as weapons, Kelnox said, with what might have been admiration. After lunch, Hyunwoo returned to his work. He was cleaning the observation deck when he heard footsteps behind him. He turned to see Commander Theklar approaching. The Vorthak commander looked different than he had 3 weeks ago. His injuries had healed, but there was something changed. In his posture, less arrogance, more thoughtfulness. Commander, Hyunwoo said politely. Human, Theklar replied. He stood quietly for a moment, looking out at the stars through the large window. I have been thinking about our fight, he said. Finally. Oh, I trained my entire life for combat. I studied every form of Vorthak martial arts. I learned to use every traditional weapon. I thought I was prepared for any opponent. You fought well, Hyunwoo said. In a fair fight, you would have won easily. But you did not give me a fair fight. No, I gave you a real fight. Theklar nodded slowly. This is what I have been thinking about. On Vorthak Prime, we have rules for combat. Honor codes, traditions. We fight the way our ancestors fought, and it works well for fighting other Vorthak. Exactly. But the galaxy is not full of Vorthak. There are hundreds of species, each with their own way of fighting, their own advantages. Hyunwoo continued cleaning while they talked. What will you do with this knowledge? I have requested a transfer, Theklar said. I want to study other species, learn how they fight, how they think. That is wise. I also wanted to apologize. Hyunwoo stopped cleaning and looked at the alien commander. For what? For underestimating your species, for treating humans like servants instead of equals, for assuming that physical strength was the only strength that mattered. Apology. Accepted. They stood in comfortable silence for a while, watching ships come and go from the station docking bays. "There is something else," Teklar said. "I spoke with Commander Yultar about you." "About me? Your skills are wasted in maintenance. You should be in security or engineering or ship navigation. Any job that uses your intelligence instead of just your muscles." Hyunwoo smiled. "I appreciate the thought, but I like my job." "Cleaning floors?" "Cleaning floors gives me time to think, time to observe, time to understand how the station works." He gestured around them. "I know every system, every weakness, every strength of this place. That knowledge made the difference in our fight." "So, you plan to stay a janitor?" "For now. But I am also doing other things." "What other things?" Hyunwoo pointed to a group of humans at the other end of the observation deck. They were practicing basic self-defense moves under Dong-hyun's instruction. "Teaching," Hyunwoo said. "Not how to fight, but how to be confident. How to stand up for themselves, how to solve problems." Teklar watched the humans training. "You are preparing them for more fights?" "I am preparing them for life. Fighting is just one small part of that." The Vorthak commander considered this. "Would you teach non-humans as well?" "If they wanted to learn, yes, I would like to learn." Hyunwoo looked at him in surprise. "You want me to teach you?" "I want to learn how humans think, how you see problems differently than other species, how you find solutions that others miss. That is not something that can be taught in a few lessons. Then teach me slowly. I have time." Hyunwoo thought about this. 3 weeks ago, Teklar had been his enemy. Now he wanted to be his student. The galaxy was full of surprises. "All right," he said finally, "but we start with the basics." "What basics?" "Cleaning floors." Teklar looked confused. "I do not understand. If you want to learn how humans think, you need to understand how we see the world. And I learned more about this station from cleaning it than I ever could have from studying blueprints." The Vorthak commander was quiet for a long moment. Then, he nodded. "When do we start?" "Tomorrow night. Bring old clothes." After Teklar left, Hyunwoo returned to his work. He finished cleaning the observation deck and moved on to the next section of corridor. As he worked, he thought about how much had changed. 3 weeks ago, he had been running from his past, trying to forget who he used to be. Now he was using his past to help build a better future. He thought about his old team, the soldiers who had died because of his decisions. For 2 years, he had carried their deaths as a burden. Now he was beginning to see them differently. They had died protecting innocent people. They had chosen to risk their lives so that others could live safely. In the end, that was what being a soldier really meant. Hyunwoo was not a soldier anymore, but he could still protect people. He could still make a difference. He pushed his cleaning cart down the corridor, whistling softly. Behind him, the floors gleamed in the station lights, clean and ready for another day. In the distance, he could hear laughter from the mess hall where humans and aliens were sharing meals together. It was a sound that would have been impossible 3 weeks ago. Sometimes the smallest actions created the biggest changes. Sometimes a janitor could change the world just by refusing to give up. Hyunwoo smiled and continued his work. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities to help others, new chances to prove that humans belonged among the stars. But tonight, he was content to clean floors and know that he was exactly where he needed to be. Teklar wiped the green blood from his mouth and spat into the sand. The casual arrogance was gone from his face, replaced by cold fury. He had been embarrassed in front of hundreds of spectators. "No more games," he snarled. The Vorthak commander moved differently now. Instead of wild charges, he advanced with calculated steps. His claws moved in defensive patterns, ready to counter any attack. This was the trained warrior that had made him famous throughout the Vorthak military. Hyunwoo backed away, but he was running out of space. The arena walls hemmed him in on all sides. He could dodge and weave for a while longer, but eventually Teklar would corner him. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining, Commander Yultar announced. The crowd was on its feet now. Even the aliens, who had bet against the human, were cheering. This was a better fight than anyone had expected. Theklar feinted left, then struck right. His claws whistled through the air where Hyunwoo's head had been a split second before. Hyunwoo rolled sideways and came up near the center of the arena. He was breathing hard now. The constant movement was taking its toll. Tired already? Theklar taunted. Humans have such poor endurance. He was trying to get inside Hyunwoo's head, but the tactic backfired. The comment reminded Hyunwoo of something important. Humans did have poor endurance compared to Vorthak, but they had better problem-solving abilities. Hyunwoo looked up at the arena lights hanging from the ceiling. Each light was connected to the main power grid by thick cables. He remembered installing new circuits in this section of the station 6 months ago. If he could reach one of those cables... Theklar attacked again, both claws sweeping in from different angles. There was no way to dodge both strikes. Instead of trying, Hyunwoo jumped straight up. He grabbed one of the lower-hanging light fixtures and swung his body out of the way. Theklar's claws scraped against metal instead of flesh. The crowd gasped. No one had expected the human to use the arena fixtures as weapons. Clever, Theklar admitted. But you cannot hang there forever. He was right. Hyunwoo's grip was already slipping. But he had gained a few precious seconds to think. The light fixture was connected to the emergency power system. If he could overload the circuit, he might be able to create a distraction. Hyunwoo reached up and grabbed the power cable. It was designed to carry high voltage safely, but the insulation was not perfect. If he could expose the wire, he bit through the outer covering just as his grip failed. Hyunwoo dropped back to the arena floor. Theklar was waiting for him with claws extended, but instead of landing where the alien expected, Hyunwoo twisted in midair and came down behind him. 1 minute remaining, Commander Yultar announced. Theklar spun around, but Hyunwoo was already moving. He grabbed the damaged power cable and yanked it downward. Sparks flew as the exposed wire made contact with Theklar's metal armor. The Vorthak commander screamed as electricity coursed through his body. His muscles locked up and he fell to his knees in the sand. The arena lights flickered and went out. Emergency lighting kicked in, bathing everything in red. The crowd erupted in chaos. Some aliens were cheering for the human's cleverness. Others were shouting that he had cheated. 30 seconds remaining, Commander Yultar called over the noise. Theklar struggled to his feet. The electrical shock had stunned him, but Vorthak were tough. He was hurt, but not defeated. You fight like a coward, he gasped. I fight like a human, Hyunwoo replied. No honor, no dignity. My species learned long ago that honor does not keep you alive. Hyunwoo moved closer to his opponent. Theklar raised his claws, but his movements were slow and unsteady. You want to know the difference between humans and Vorthak? Hyunwoo asked. Tell me, Theklar snarled. Vorthak fight for glory, humans fight for each other. Hyunwoo ducked under Theklar's wild swing and struck upward with his fist. He hit the alien in the throat, right where the armor plates met. Theklar staggered backward, gasping for air. 10 seconds, Commander Yultar announced. The crowd was counting down. 9, 8, 7. Theklar made one last desperate attack. He lunged forward with both claws, putting everything he had into the strike. Hyunwoo stepped aside and let momentum carry the alien past him. 3, 2, 1. A buzzer sounded throughout the arena. Time, Commander Yultar shouted. The arena fell silent, except for the sound of heavy breathing. Theklar stood in the center of the arena, swaying slightly. Green blood dripped from cuts on his face and arms. His armor was blackened from the electrical burns. Hyunwoo stood near the arena wall. His work clothes were torn and dirty. His left shoulder was clearly injured, but he was still standing. The human has survived 5 minutes of combat, Commander Yultar announced. By station law, he is declared the winner. The reaction from the crowd was mixed. Some aliens cheered for the unexpected victory. Others sat in stunned silence. A few were arguing loudly about whether the human had fought fairly. Theklar looked around the arena as if seeing it for the first time. His yellow eyes found Hyun-woo. How? He asked simply. Your species evolved for one-on-one combat, Hyun-woo said. Honor duels between warriors. My species evolved for survival. We use every advantage we can find. You use the arena itself as a weapon. The arena is part of the battlefield. You ignored it because it was not honorable to use it. Theklar nodded slowly. I underestimated you. Most people do. That is our greatest advantage. The Vorthak commander straightened up despite his injuries. He was still huge and intimidating, but something had changed in his posture. I concede defeat, he announced loudly. The human fought with courage and intelligence. The new efficiency standards will be withdrawn. The arena erupted in noise again. Human spectators were cheering and hugging each other. Alien spectators were talking, excitedly about what they had just witnessed. Hyun-woo walked across the sand toward the exit tunnel. His friends were waiting for him there, their faces bright with joy and relief. But as he reached the tunnel entrance, he heard Theklar call his name. Human, the Vorthak commander said. What you did today. It was not just survival. It was war. You fought like a soldier. Hyun-woo paused. Sometimes soldiers fight to protect people, not to destroy them. I would like to learn more about this human way of fighting. Maybe someday, Hyun-woo said. But not today. Today I just want to go back to cleaning floors. He walked into the tunnel where his friends were waiting. For the first time in 2 years, he felt like he might finally be at peace with who he was. Behind him, Theklar stood alone in the center of the arena, thinking about everything he had learned from a human janitor. The main arena was packed with spectators. Aliens filled every seat, their voices creating a buzz of excitement that echoed off the metal walls. Betting pools had been running all day. The odds were 50-1 against the human. Hyun-woo stood in the preparation room beneath the arena floor. He wore simple work clothes and basic protective padding on his chest and arms. The padding would not stop Theklar's claws, but it might slow them down enough to matter. Through the thin walls, he could hear the crowd getting louder. Most of them had come to watch a human get torn apart by a Vorthak warrior. It would be entertainment for them. The door opened and So-jin entered with Dong-hyun and Hye-jin. They had been allowed to see him before the fight. How do you feel? Hye-jin asked. Ready, Hyun-woo said. It was mostly true. Remember what we talked about, Dong-hyun said. Use the environment. Do not try to match his strength. I remember. So-jin handed him a small water bottle. The rules say you can bring water into the arena. We put electrolytes in it. It will help with endurance. Thank you. A buzzer sounded. The preparation time was over. Whatever happens, So-jin said, we are proud of you for trying. Hyun-woo nodded. He walked to the entrance tunnel that led to the arena floor. The tunnel was dark, but he could see bright lights at the end. The crowd noise grew louder as he approached. When he stepped into the arena, the sound hit him like a wave. The arena was circular, about 30 meters across. The floor was covered with sand to absorb blood. Metal walls rose up on all sides to the spectator seats. Lights hung from the ceiling, casting harsh shadows. Hyun-woo had cleaned this arena many times, but it looked different now, bigger, more dangerous. He walked to the center of the arena and looked around. Everything was exactly as he remembered. The ventilation grates near the floor, the emergency lighting panels, the drainage systems, all of it might be useful. The crowd fell silent as the opposite tunnel opened. Commander Theklar emerged like a nightmare made real. He wore traditional Vorthak combat armor that covered his torso but left his arms free. The crystalline spines on his arms had been sharpened to razor points. His claws gleamed under the arena lights. He was even bigger than Hyunwoo remembered. Nearly 8 feet tall and probably twice his weight. His yellow eyes locked onto Hyunwoo with predatory focus. The crowd erupted in cheers and roars as Theklar raised his arms. He was clearly the favorite, the champion, the one they expected, to win. Commander Yultar's voice boomed over the arena speakers. Citizens of New Seoul Station, we gathered to witness trial by combat. The challenger, human Kim Hyun-woo, has questioned the wisdom of new efficiency standards. The defender, Commander Theklar, will prove the superiority of Vorthak judgment. Theklar began performing intimidation displays. He roared, showing his sharp teeth. He slashed the air with his claws, making them whistle. He struck poses that showed off his muscular frame and armor. The alien crowd loved it. They cheered louder with each display. Hyunwoo stood quietly in the center of the arena. He was not trying to look intimidating. He was studying his opponent. Theklar moved like most large fighters, powerful but not especially quick. He favored his right arm, which meant his left side might be vulnerable. His armor was ceremonial, designed to look impressive rather than provide maximum protection. The rules are simple, Commander Yultar announced. The human must survive 5 minutes of combat. If he falls unconscious or yields, he loses. If Commander Theklar cannot defeat him in 5 minutes, the human wins. A large timer appeared on the arena wall. 5 minutes and 0 seconds. Fighters, prepare for combat. Theklar stopped his displays and focused on Hyunwoo. His expression changed from showmanship to cold calculation. I want you to know, Theklar called across the arena, that I will make this last as long as possible. Your species needs to learn what happens when you challenge your betters. Hyunwoo did not respond. He was breathing slowly and deeply, centering himself the way he had been taught years ago. Begin! Commander Yultar shouted. The timer started counting down. Theklar charged across the arena like a living missile. Sand flew up from his feet. His claws were extended, aimed at Hyunwoo's chest. At the last second, Hyunwoo stepped aside. Theklar missed by inches and crashed into the arena wall behind him. The impact shook the entire structure. The crowd gasped. They had expected the human to try blocking or dodging backward. They had not expected him to simply step out of the way. Theklar spun around, embarrassed and angry. Running already, human? Just getting started, Hyunwoo replied. Theklar attacked again, this time more carefully. He swung his right claw in a wide arc, trying to corner Hyunwoo against the wall. Hyunwoo ducked under the swing and rolled away. He came up near one of the ventilation grates he had noticed earlier. Stop running and fight me, Theklar snarled. I am fighting you, Hyunwoo said. You just do not recognize it yet. This time, Theklar tried a different approach. Instead of charging, he advanced slowly, cutting off Hyunwoo's escape routes. His claws moved in practiced patterns, showing his formal combat training. Hyunwoo let him come closer. When Theklar was within striking range, the Vorthak lunged forward with both claws. Hyunwoo dropped flat to the sand and swept his leg at Theklar's ankles. The massive alien stumbled, but did not fall. His reflexes were better than Hyunwoo had hoped. Clever, Theklar admitted, but not clever enough. He grabbed for Hyunwoo with both hands, trying to pin him to the ground. Hyunwoo rolled backward and kicked upward, his boot connecting with Theklar's wrist. The impact knocked the alien's aim off just enough for Hyunwoo to escape the grab. The crowd was getting quieter. This was not the one-sided beating they had expected to see. 2 minutes remaining, Commander Yultar announced. Theklar was breathing. Harder now. Chasing a smaller, faster opponent was more tiring than he had expected. You cannot run forever, human, he panted. You are right, Hyunwoo said. I cannot. For the first time in the fight, Hyunwoo moved toward Theklar instead of away from him. The alien was surprised but reacted quickly, slashing downward with his right claw. Hyunwoo stepped inside the attack, too close for the claws to be effective. He struck upward with his palm, hitting Theklar in the solar plexus. The alien doubled over, gasping. His armor had protected him from serious damage, but the impact had knocked the wind out of him. Hyunwoo followed up with a knee strike to Theklar's head. But Theklar was not helpless. Even winded, he managed to grab Hyunwoo's leg and throw him across the arena. Hyunwoo hit the sand hard and rolled. He came up with his left shoulder aching, but nothing felt broken. "First blood to the human!" someone in the crowd shouted. Hyunwoo looked down and saw that he was right. There was green Vorthak blood on his knuckles from where he had hit Theklar's mouth. Theklar wiped his own blood from his split lip. For the first time, he looked angry instead of confident. "Now I stop playing with you," he growled. The real fight was about to begin. The storage bay was quiet except for the hum of the air recyclers. Hyunwoo sat on a supply crate watching his friends argue about combat tactics they had learned from movies and books. None of them had ever been in a real fight. "Vorthak have thick skin," Hyejin was saying. "But their eyes are sensitive to bright light. Maybe we can get you a flashlight or something." "That will not work," Dong-hyun replied. "Arena combat has rules. No weapons except what the fighters bring with their bodies." "Then what about their weak spots?" Sojin asked. "Every species has weak spots, right?" They continued discussing ideas. That would never work. Hyunwoo appreciated their help, but he knew they did not understand what they were dealing with. Theklar was not just strong. He was trained. There was a difference between strength and skill. "Wait," Dong-hyun said suddenly. He was staring at Hyunwoo with a strange expression. "Stand up for a moment." "Why?" "Just stand up, walk around." Hyunwoo stood and took a few steps. The other humans watched him curiously. "Now sit down again," Dong-hyun said. "But do it quickly like someone surprised you." Hyunwoo dropped into a crouch without thinking. His hands automatically moved to defensive positions, his weight balanced on the balls of his feet, ready to move in any direction. The storage bay fell silent. "Where did you learn to do that?" Dong-hyun asked quietly. "Do what?" "Move like a soldier." The question hit Hyunwoo like a physical blow. He had been so careful for months to hide his past, but stress and fear had made him careless. "I do not know what you mean," he said. Dong-hyun shook his head. "I was in the Korean military for 12 years. I trained new recruits. I know how soldiers move. And you just moved like someone with serious combat training." The other humans were staring at Hyunwoo now. Sojin looked confused. Hyejin looked hopeful. "You are imagining things," Hyunwoo said. "Am I?" Dong-hyun stood up and walked closer. "Let me guess. You told everyone you worked construction on Earth, but construction workers do not scan rooms for exits when they enter. They do not sleep facing the door. They do not keep their back to the wall in crowded spaces. Lots of people do those things, not like you do them, not automatically like breathing." Dong-hyun sat down across from Hyunwoo. "What unit?" Hyunwoo was quiet for a long moment. Then he sighed. 707th Special Mission Group." The humans exchanged glances. Even people who knew nothing about the military had heard of the 707th. They were South Korea's most elite special forces unit. "How long?" Dong-hyun asked. 6 years. "What happened?" Hyunwoo closed his eyes. "A mission went wrong. My team died. I left the service and came here." "Why did you not tell us?" Sojin asked. "Because that person is gone," Hyunwoo said firmly. "Lieutenant Kim died with his team. I am just a cleaner now." "No," Dong-hyun said. "You can change your job, but you cannot change your training. Your body remembers everything. Your mind remembers everything. I do not want to remember. Right. Now remembering might save your life. And the lives of every human on this station." Hyejin leaned forward. What kind of training did Special Forces receive? Hyun-woo did not want to answer, but the others were looking at him with hope in their eyes. They needed to believe he had a chance. Close quarters combat, he said reluctantly. Weapons training, survival techniques, psychological warfare. Hand-to-hand fighting? Dong-hyun asked. Yes? Against multiple opponents? Sometimes. What about larger opponents? Hyun-woo thought about the training sessions where he had fought instructors who were bigger and stronger than him. Size is not everything. Speed matters. Intelligence matters more. There, Dong-hyun said with satisfaction. You see? You already know how to fight someone like Theklar. It is not that simple. Why not? Hyun-woo stood up and walked to the small window that looked out at the stars. Because fighting changes you. When you hurt people, when you kill people, it does something to your soul. I came here to get away from that. But your friends need you, So-jin said softly. My team needed me too, and I failed them. The storage bay was quiet again. The other humans did not know what to say. Finally, Dong-hyun spoke. What happened to your team? Hyun-woo did not turn around. We were sent to rescue hostages from a building. Intelligence said there were 5 terrorists inside. There were actually 15. I made the call to go in anyway. We were outnumbered, 3-1. That was not your fault. I was the team leader. Everything was my fault. Hyun-woo's reflection stared back at him from the window. 4 good soldiers died because I made a bad decision. And how many hostages lived because you went in? Hyejin asked. 23. 23 people are alive because of your bad decision. Their families got to see them again. Their children still have parents. Hyun-woo turned around. That does not bring back my team. No, Dong-hyun agreed. But it means their sacrifice mattered. And right now, you have a chance to make another sacrifice matter. This is different. Is it? You have a choice. You can fight as a cleaner and probably die. Or you can fight as a soldier and maybe live. Either way, you are fighting for people who cannot fight for themselves. So, Jin stood up and walked over to Hyun-woo. Do you know why I came to this station? To earn money? To earn money for my daughter's medical treatment. She has a genetic condition that requires expensive therapy. If I go back to Earth with half pay, I cannot afford her treatment. She looked around at the other humans. Jin-ho sends money to his elderly parents. Hye-jin is paying for her brother's education. We all have people depending on us. I know. Then, you know that we are not asking you to become a killer again. We are asking you to remember how to protect people. Hyun-woo looked at each of his friends. They were good people who had been kind to him. They had shared their food with him when he was homesick. They had covered his shifts when he was sick. They had never asked about his past or judged him for taking a job that was beneath his education. There is something else, he said slowly. What? I know this station better than anyone. I have cleaned every corridor, every maintenance shaft, every storage room. I know where the power lines run and where the structural supports are weakest. Dong-hyun smiled. The arena is part of the station. Yes, and I have cleaned it many times. I know every ventilation duct, every access panel, every emergency system. That could be useful. Hyun-woo nodded. Vorthak are trained for honor combat. One warrior against another in open battle. They are not trained for asymmetric warfare. What is asymmetric warfare? So-jin asked. Fighting smart instead of fighting fair. For the first time since the challenge was issued, Hyun-woo began to think he might actually survive tomorrow. Not because he was stronger than Theklar, but because he understood something the Vorthak commander did not. The arena was not just a fighting space, it was a battlefield. And Hyun-woo knew every inch of that battlefield. All right, he said. Let me tell you how we are going to do this. The humans gathered around him as he began to plan. For the first time in 2 years, Lieutenant Kim Hyun-woo, of the 707th Special Mission Group, started thinking like a soldier again. But this time, he was not fighting to kill. He was fighting to protect. And that made all the difference. The weekly station meeting was held in the main assembly hall. Hyun-woo sat in the back row with the other human workers. The front rows were reserved for alien department heads and senior officers. Station Commander Yul-tar stood at the podium, his massive Vorthak frame casting a shadow across the room. "We have received new directives from the Vorthak High Command," Commander Yul-tar announced. His voice echoed through the hall's speakers. "Mining quotas will increase by 15%. Next month." Murmurs spread through the crowd. The quotas were already difficult to meet. A 15% increase would mean longer shifts and more dangerous work. "To ensure efficiency, we will implement new workplace standards," the commander continued. "These standards will help identify workers who are not contributing adequately to station operations." Hyun-woo noticed movement in the front row. Commander Theklar stood up and walked to the podium. He carried a data pad in his clawed hands. "Thank you, Station Commander," Theklar said. He looked out at the assembled workers with cold yellow eyes. "As head of security, I have been tasked with designing these new efficiency standards." He activated a holographic display that showed a list of new rules. Hyun-woo felt his stomach drop as he read them. All cleaning staff must complete their assigned sectors 30 minutes faster than before. Any worker who failed to meet time requirements would have their pay reduced. Workers who failed twice would be transferred to the hazardous mining levels. Workers who failed 3 times would be terminated and sent back to their home planets. The rules were clearly designed to be impossible. No human could clean their assigned areas that quickly without cutting corners on safety procedures. "These standards will take effect immediately," Theklar said. "I am confident that dedicated workers will have no trouble meeting them." So-jin Park, who sat beside Hyun-woo, whispered in his ear. "This is madness. Nobody can work that fast." "That is the point," Hyun-woo whispered back. Commander Yul-tar asked if anyone had questions about the new policies. Several alien workers raised their hands with minor concerns. The commander answered them politely. Then Hyun-woo did something he had never done before. He raised his hand. The hall fell silent. All eyes turned to look at him. Commander Yul-tar looked surprised. "Yes," the commander said. "The human in the back." Hyun-woo stood up slowly. His heart was beating fast, but his voice was steady when he spoke. "Sir, I would like to ask for clarification about the new cleaning standards." Commander Theklar turned around with interest. A thin smile spread across his reptilian face. "What kind of clarification?" Commander Yul-tar asked. "The new time requirements do not account for safety protocols," Hyun-woo said. "Cleaning certain areas requires following strict procedures to avoid damaging sensitive equipment. If we rush through these procedures, we risk causing accidents that could harm the station." Several human workers nodded in agreement. Even some of the alien workers looked thoughtful. Commander Theklar stepped forward. "Are you suggesting that the new standards are unsafe, human?" "I am asking how we should balance safety requirements with speed requirements, sir." "I see." Theklar's smile grew wider. "And what is your name, cleaner?" "Kim Hyun-woo, sir." "Kim Hyun-woo." Theklar repeated the name slowly. "The same human I encountered in Sector 7 last night. Tell me, Kim Hyun-woo, do you think you know better than your superiors?" The question was a trap, and Hyun-woo knew it. If he said yes, he would be accused of insubordination. If he said no, his concerns would be dismissed. "I think safety should be everyone's concern, sir." "Safety," Theklar said mockingly. "Always safety with humans. You are so afraid of everything. This is why your species will never be great." Angry murmurs came from the human section. Several humans started to stand up, but Hyun-woo gestured for them to stay seated. "Perhaps," Theklar continued, "you would prefer to demonstrate that humans can meet these standards, or perhaps you believe humans are too weak to work efficiently." Humans are not weak, sir. No. Teklar walked down the aisle toward Hyun-woo. Other workers moved out of his way. Then prove it. How would you like me to prove it, sir? Teklar stopped directly in front of Hyun-woo. Even though Hyun-woo was standing, the Vorthak commander towered over him. Combat, Teklar said simply. The hall erupted in shocked voices. Commander Yultar banged his gavel for silence. Commander Teklar, Yultar said carefully. Formal combat challenges require specific protocols. I am aware of the protocols, Teklar replied. He never took his eyes off Hyun-woo. I hereby issue a formal challenge to this human. Single combat in the station arena. If he can survive against me for 5 minutes, I will recommend that the new efficiency standards be revised. And if I lose? Hyun-woo asked. Teklar's grin showed all of his sharp teeth. When you lose, all human workers will be placed on double shifts with half pay. This will teach your species about making demands of their betters. The human workers looked horrified. Double shifts would mean 16-hour workdays. Half pay would make it impossible to send money home to their families. Commander Teklar, Yultar said, this seems excessive. Station law allows for combat. Challenges to resolve workplace disputes, Teklar replied. The human questioned the wisdom of new policies. Let him prove his species is capable of more than complaints. Commander Yultar looked uncomfortable, but he nodded. Station law does permit such challenges. However, both parties must agree to the terms. All eyes turned to Hyun-woo. He looked around the hall at the other human workers. Sojin was shaking, her head frantically. Dong-hyun Lee, an older human who worked in the machine shops, was staring at him with wide eyes. Hyun-woo knew he had no choice. If he refused the challenge, Teklar would find other ways to make life miserable for the human workers. At least this way, there was a small chance of helping them. I accept the challenge, he said quietly. The hall exploded in noise. Aliens chittered and roared their approval. Humans shouted in dismay. Commander Yultar banged his gavel repeatedly. Silence! Yultar shouted. The challenge has been accepted according to station law. Combat will take place tomorrow at 1400 hours in the main arena. Standard combat rules apply. The match will last either 5 minutes or until one fighter cannot continue. Teklar walked back to the front of the room. Excellent. I look forward to demonstrating proper Vorthak combat techniques to our human guests. The meeting is adjourned, Commander Yultar announced. Workers began filing out of the hall. The bye tea. Aliens were excited, already placing bets on how quickly Teklar would defeat the human. The humans left quietly, many of them avoiding eye contact with Hyun-woo. Sojin grabbed his arm as they walked toward the exit. What were you thinking? She hissed. Teklar is a trained warrior. You clean floors for a living. Someone had. To say something, Hyun-woo replied. But why you? Why did it have to be you? Hyun-woo did not have a good answer for that question. He had acted on instinct, the same instinct that had gotten him into trouble before. As they reached the corridor, Dong-hyun Lee approached them. The older man had gray hair and kind eyes, but his expression was serious. Hyun-woo, he said, we need to talk. All of us. Tonight. What about? About keeping you alive tomorrow. They gathered in Storage Bay C after the night shift began. 7 human workers sat in a circle among boxes of supplies. Sojin had brought coffee from the mess hall. Hye-jin Choi, who worked in the medical bay, had brought bandages and painkillers. This is insane, Hye-jin said. Teklar has killed people in combat before. Real warriors, not maintenance workers. We know, Dong-hyun said. But it is too late to back out now. If Hyun-woo forfeits, the punishment for all humans will be even worse. So what do we do? Sojin asked. Dong-hyun looked at Hyun-woo. We help him prepare. We study Vorthak combat techniques. We find weaknesses. In 18 hours? Another worker asked. How? We do what humans do best, Dong-hyun said. We adapt. Hyun-woo. Listened to his friends plan and argue. They were good people trying to help him survive an impossible situation. But he knew something they did not know. He had fought trained killers before. He had survived situations that should have killed him. The problem was not whether he could fight. The problem was whether he could fight without becoming the person he used to be, the person he had tried so hard to leave behind. The lights in Sector 7 always flickered at 300 hours. Hyun-woo Kim knew this because he had been cleaning these corridors for 8 months now. Every night, the same routine. Every night, the same broken light that maintenance never fixed. He pushed his cleaning cart down the metal hallway. The wheels squeaked against the floor plates. The sound echoed in the empty corridor. Most of the stations slept at this hour, but Hyun-woo worked the night shift. It paid better, and he needed every credit he could earn. The New Seoul mining station stretched for kilometers in every direction. Thousands of workers lived and worked here, deep in space. Humans made up less than 20% of the population. The rest were aliens from dozens of different worlds. Hyun-woo stopped at a viewing port and looked out at the stars. Earth was somewhere out there, but he could not see it from here. His family was on Earth. His mother needed surgery, and his younger sister wanted to go to university. Both cost money that his family did not have. That was why he was here, mopping floors on a space station instead of using his engineering degree. Another sleepless human wandering the halls. The voice came from behind him. Hyun-woo turned around slowly. 3 Vorthak soldiers stood in the corridor. They wore the dark blue uniforms of station security. The one in front was tall, even for a Vorthak. His reptilian skin was dark green with silver markings. Crystalline spines ran along his arms and back. His name tag read, Commander Theklar. "Good evening, Commander," Hyun-woo said politely. He bowed his head slightly as required by station protocol when addressing Vorthak officers. Theklar walked closer. His boots clicked against the metal floor. "You are the human cleaner, yes? I have seen you before." "Yes, sir." Hyun-woo Kim, maintenance staff. "Maintenance." Theklar made a sound that might have been laughter. "Tell me, human, what did you do on Earth before you came here to clean our floors?" Hyun-woo hesitated. He had learned not to mention his engineering degree. Some aliens did not like the idea that their janitor was educated. "I worked in construction, sir." "Construction." Theklar nodded. "Good work for humans. Building things with your hands. Much better than trying to think with your primitive brains." The other 2 Vorthak made clicking sounds with their throats. Hyun-woo recognized this as Vorthak laughter. "Yes, sir," Hyun-woo said quietly. Theklar walked around Hyun-woo's cleaning cart. He picked up the spray bottle of cleaning solution and examined it. "What is this chemical?" "Floor cleaner, sir. Safe for all station surfaces." "Safe for all station surfaces," Theklar repeated in a mocking tone. "The humans always worry about safety, always afraid of taking risks." He tossed the bottle back onto the cart. It hit the metal side with a loud clang. Several more bottles fell off the cart and rolled across the floor. Blue cleaning solution leaked from one of them, forming a puddle on the clean floor. "Oh," Theklar said, not sounding sorry at all. "How clumsy of me. You should clean that up." "Of course, sir." Hyun-woo knelt down and began collecting the bottles. The leaked cleaning solution stung his hands, but he did not complain. Complaining would only make things worse. "Look at him," Theklar said to his companions. "Crawling on the ground like the animal he is. This is why humans will never be more than servants in the galaxy. No pride, no spine." Hyun-woo continued, cleaning. He had heard worse insults during his time on the station. The Vorthak believed they were the superior race. They controlled most of the Outer Rim territories. To them, humans were just another species to be managed. "I heard that humans used to fight wars on their planet," one of the other Vorthak said. "Is this true, cleaner?" Hyunwoo paused. Yes, sir. Earth had many wars. And yet you are here, mopping floors. What happened to all those human warriors? I do not know, sir. I was never a warrior. This was not entirely true. Hyunwoo had been a soldier once. He had served in the Korean Special Forces for 6 years. But that life was behind him now. He did not want to think about it. Of course not, Teklar said. Modern humans are weak, soft. You spend your time making peace treaties and trade agreements instead of becoming strong. This is why the Vorthak Empire controls 40 star systems, while humans barely control 5. Hyunwoo finished collecting the bottles and stood up. He pulled out a mop and began cleaning the spilled solution. The 3 Vorthak watched him work. Do you know what I did before coming to this station? Teklar asked. No, sir. I was a combat instructor on Vorthak Prime. I trained the Empire's finest warriors. I have killed enemies with my bare claws. I have led troops into battle against rebel forces. Teklar flexed his arms. The crystalline spines along his forearms gleamed under the corridor lights. And now I watch humans mop floors. It is almost insulting. I am sorry you feel that way, sir. Are you? Teklar stepped closer. Or are you simply saying what you think I want to hear? Humans are good at that, saying the right words to avoid conflict. Hyunwoo did not answer. He finished mopping the floor and wrung out the mop in his bucket. The water was dirty now. I have a theory about humans, Teklar continued. I think you are naturally cowards. Your entire species evolved to run away from danger instead of facing it. This is why you can never defeat the Vorthak in combat. This is why you work for us instead of the other way around. One of the other Vorthak officers spoke up. Commander, we should continue our patrol. Yes, yes. Teklar looked at Hyunwoo one more time. Clean this corridor well, human. I will inspect it tomorrow. If I find even a single spot of dirt, there will be consequences. Yes, sir. The 3 Vorthak walked away, their boots echoing, down the corridor. Hyunwoo waited until they were out of sight before he allowed his shoulders to relax. His hands were shaking slightly, and not from the cleaning chemicals. He looked down at his reflection in the wet floor. A tired face looked back at him. Dark circles under his eyes from working night shifts, calloused hands from months of manual labor. He barely recognized himself anymore. On Earth, he had been Lieutenant Kim Hyunwoo of the 707th Special Mission Group. He had jumped out of helicopters and crawled through enemy territory. He had been trained to kill with weapons, with his hands, or with whatever tools were available. But that man was gone. That man had died along with his team in a mission that went wrong. The man who remained was just a cleaner on a space station, trying to earn money for his family. Hyunwoo pushed his cart to the next section of corridor. He had 4 more hours of work ahead of him, 4 more hours of empty hallways and flickering lights. He did not know that tomorrow would change everything.